right, boys and girls, as we just introduced earlier on here, we do have on the other side of this Zoom call a former ARCA champion, someone who races a truck here on the TV every other once in a while. This is going to be the driver named Bret Holmes. What's going on, pal?
Hey, good man. How are you?
Not too bad. So, obviously, some big things happened with you pertaining to Talladega. We will lead up to that, but before we get too started here, who the fuck is Bret Holmes?
Who the fuck is Bret Holmes? Basically, I'm the long story short, just been racing all my life. Started racing go karts when I was about 6 years old, and gone through the ranks of go karts, dirt late models, asphalt late models, ARCA, now trucks. Also work full time with my family's site work construction company and real estate company. I went to Auburn University for about 5.5 years. So that's me in a nutshell.
What was there any sort of lead up, like family wise, to racing, or were you just like, I like Legos and cars, and now I want to go kart?
No, so my dad raced dirt late models, and started way before I was born. So since I was born, really growing up to going to the racetrack, watching him, and I guess I was just kind of born into it or molded into it. Doing that. That was just a normal thing to do on Saturdays. So that's really how I got into it.
Fair enough, fair enough. So you start off in go karts, you say, and then you kind of progress up through the ranks. How do we go from go karts to you in trucks? That's a pretty big gap here. Where's the fill in there?
Yeah, so I did go karts for about like 3 or 4 years. So I was about 10 years old or so. Really mainly just race local at Talladega Short Track, the dirt track that's across the road from the super speedway. Also has a go-kart track, and they run there on Friday nights. Then they run it there, like quarter three-eighths mile track with the late models and other divisions. So I did that for a while, like went did a handful of races at other tracks kind of in Alabama or Georgia. And then was trying to figure out the best way, because there's not really a good transition between go-karts and late models, right? So tried to figure out that for a little bit. So I ran legend. We decided on legend cars. That's what I did for about a year or so when I was about 10 or 11 years old. And that was a shit show, to say the least, because you go from a go-kart, like sitting low to the ground, as light as they are, small motor and everything, to a legend car, it's a straight shift, a lot bigger motor, a lot thinner tire. Really kind of the premise of it is based on a really old like frame, basically. So it was like a huge 180, completely different surface. Also, I was trying to do that on asphalt. So it wasn't really successful with that. So I did that for like a year or so, and then just went into dirt late models because that was kind of our bread and butter. My dad was still doing it at this time. So mainly raced at Talladega Short Track and Green Valley Speedway. First half year or so when I was starting out, and then started traveling around the southeast a little bit in crate late models, and I did that for a year, and then I started racing super late models locally and with the Southern All Star Series. It's like a southeastern dirt late model series. Y'all may have not heard of it, but so I did that, and at that, when we got to the end of that, I finished like second in points in that series in the rookie of the year. And it was kind of like, at that point, it was like, well, like, is this something I want to do? How far do I want to go with this? Do I want to turn this into a career one day? Or is it just a hobby to me? So, obviously decided on it being a pretty serious thing, a career. So I started racing asphalt late models. And we did that out of our own shop. It was a huge learning experience. We had no clue what we were doing, specifically with tires and spotting. My dad spotted for me for a little bit, and if y'all can tell from my accent, I mean, I'm a little Southern, not really crazy, but my dad is like Forrest Gump, basically. So So him spotting and the reaction time of that was, pretty hilarious to say the least. But we went through growing pains for a little bit, and got a little bit better help, and did really well with that. We ran around the southeast again. I ran like Montgomery Motor Speedway, Five Flag Speedway, won track championships there, and ran other races around the southeast and even in the CRA. Then so basically wanted to make the step up to ARCA, and Grant Enfinger just won the championship in 2015, and started talking to him a little bit, and that we really built a relationship from there. We bought a couple of cars, a couple of GMS Racing's cars. When Grant won that championship, bought 2 cars from them, and then he really basically started my career in that. He crew chiefed me. He worked on the cars for the week because he was, also full time at GMS working in the shop. And we just basically had some borrowed space from them in their shop. They let us have 2 bays in their shop to run out of. And so it all kind of from there kind of blossomed into getting our, moved to a couple places and leasing other shops, and people coming through our team and stuff. And we finally, nailed down a shop. We bought a shop last year that we'd actually been leasing for a year. And that's, we've kind of just kept growing and developing since, and accomplishing, kind of our standards and accomplishments along the way.
So you had talked about the transition from, the kind of dabbling in late models and things like that, and wanting to, be half-ass serious about it. What was the turning point where you were like, this is something that I could do for like a living? Like what was that switch that was flipped?
I don't know. I think part of it was like, part of that decision was because I wasn't crazy about dirt racing. But I still like it. I still even do it a little bit these days. Not as much. I ran like one couple races last year, but I don't know. I just it was just something I just decided I want to take more serious, and I feel like the level we were at, it wasn't more than just a hobby, and to make it and to advance along the ladder of racing, I felt like making the transition to asphalt was the thing to do, and learning that kind of driving style. So we did that, and obviously it's a completely different world. Like the two don't even really relate, people wise, equipment wise at all. So there's definitely a hard transition to make there that took some time, but at the time it was just really based on, is it a hobby, or is it something we want to take serious? And it was just kind of left up to that.
At what age did you have to make that transition from racing dirt to racing asphalt? And did you ever look back on that and kind of wish maybe you stuck with dirt for a little bit longer? Now seeing, I mean, I don't really know what the asphalt purses are from people that travel around, but there's some pretty wild graphics out there of the dirt racers and dirt late models, and specifically that are pretty wealthy right now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't know. I think I kind of wish I would have stayed in dirt like maybe one year longer. I think I did that when I was about 15, 16 years old. Or 16, and it was about 2013. And yeah, it was definitely just the environment of dirt racing is like so much more laid back than asphalt. Like everybody in the asphalt world is, I don't want to say nose in the air, but it is, it is business there. Like it's not as laid back and all that stuff as dirt is, for sure. And that's the side of it that I miss. But yeah, no, I mean, there's definitely, you can race on a lot smaller budget in dirt racing than you can asphalt late model racing. So I think that side of it is pretty appealing to a lot of people too, and just the environment of it. But I think racing in general is, for the last 3 or 4 years, even the late models has gone to a crazy budget for sure.
Was the snowball derby ever something that you ran? I saw that you picked up a win down at Five Flags in Pensacola, but did you ever run that? And do you ever plan on getting back behind the wheel of an asphalt late model in the future?
Yeah, so I ran the Snowflake a couple of times, or 3 times actually. The second time I ran it, I finished third behind John Hunter Nemechek and Chase Elliott. And then that was my best result there. But the Snowball Derby never really did that well there, to be honest with you. I feel like our chassis were kind of really behind the eight ball at the time. We ran some Augie Girl chassis at the time, and I don't think anybody who was winning in the last year or two was running any of those chassis for sure. I mean, even the chassis builder himself. I'm not trying to talk shit, but he didn't make the race either. So if the chassis builder, if the guy who's won multiple Snowball Derbies and builds your own chassis can't make the race, I don't know what more you can expect out of your car. But I think we really got outdated in that area at the time. I think they were still, pro late models or crate late models didn't matter. It was just the crate motors not putting as much stress on the chassis and all that. But definitely want to go back and show what I can do there, because I feel like I'm really good at that racetrack. And not to toot my own horn or anything, but I just definitely want another shot to go back. Just got to figure out how to do it the right way and all that. So.
Well, during our little pre-show meeting here, we were kind of going through what we had discovered on you before we actually talked to you. So we didn't look like a couple of floundering fucking morons, but we had discovered that apparently Las Vegas is a good little track for you too. With pulling off, what was it, 8th and 11th or something like that? What's it about that place that kind of suits you?
In the truck series.
Yeah, in the trucks. Yes, sorry.
Yeah, I think mile and a half, like speedway races in general, really had suited us since 2019. I think a lot of that is based on how my driving has adapted ever since I've been in ARCA, and being away from late model racing a little bit. I think I've struggled a little bit in short track racing because I haven't got to race every week or full schedule, but a lot of these guys who are doing a lot of late model racing and dirt racing on the side, I think it really helps in the short track world for sure. But I just think that's really where my skills developed into is mile and a halves, and then my crew chief, I think that's where his expertise kind of favored was speedway racing, mile and a half, and super scooter racing. So mainly for those two reasons, but I really haven't ran too many mile and a half since I've been in trucks. We ran like Texas, Kansas, there, Atlanta one time last year. But I mean, Vegas is just kind of a really standard mile and a half. There's not too much tire wear compared to an Atlanta or somewhere else, or Homestead even. And it's kind of, that's kind of our bread and butter. It's what's been our bread and butter the last couple of years.
So the truck, obviously, it's been a part-time deal for you, but before that, yeah, you ran ARCA. So before we get too far into the truck deal, you ran ARCA, and obviously you didn't suck at it because you have a championship. So how do you go from leasing a couple bays out from an existing team to being the champion in the ARCA series? That's a pretty big deal.
Well, I mean, we didn't suck that year, but there were multiple years we sucked. So and that's part of the growing pains of racing. It's part of trying to work through those things. My first year in ARCA when I was with Grant, I mean, we were really close to winning a couple races. It just kind of didn't pan out pit strategy wise a couple of times. It kind of went the conservative way on pit strategy a couple of races that we should have won, or we were fastest at. But really since then, we started, I think 2017, we leased another area in GMS's like fabrication shop, like a separate couple rooms up there. And slowly started building our inventory. We still didn't have a lot of cars. We still really shouldn't have ran full time that year. Then we had 4 cars in total, and that's just, for running 4 different kinds of racetrack, that was just not sustainable or efficient at all. But really, I think the biggest problem is just, people trying to find the right crew chief for me, the right crew chief that was, going to put speed in the cars and us be fast and not have any, worry when we get to the racetrack. And, obviously since 2016, I was in Auburn, taking a full load of classes. So that kind of, hurt kind of, I feel like quality control wise, and also us, building or getting better quicker. But it is pretty, it's a lot harder than people think. I know ARCA or I know people look at ARCA, field and they're like, oh man, there's only like 3 to 5 cars that win this race, and I completely understand that. I definitely think the same way, but it's it's still just not that easy to put together your own team to do that. It's not as simple as go out there and mash the gas down and go. It's all about people. It's all about your equipment, and it takes time to build that. That's kind of where we're at in the truck series right now too. We're kind of going through that same process.
Is there anything that you're going to be able to take from your ARCA experience from building a team from almost nothing to a championship, winning team? Is there something you can transfer from that experience to your trucks?
Definitely. I mean, I think, like I said earlier, what hindered us so long in ARCA was just having the right guy in there, right crew chief to help us get to that point. I mean, Shane, Shane Huffman, my crew chief, that's going to another opportunity this year. He's been with me since 2019. He's been with me for almost 4 years now, or 3 years now. So he his second year there is when we were winning races and winning championships. So and we've been pretty I'd say some races we've lacked speed a little bit, and some races we've been really good, and I've lacked personally. So it's like again, it's just part of not getting to race full time, and not having simulation stuff like that. Is just and you're also starting off with a blank notebook too. So competing against teams that have been doing this for a few years or more than that. So that's again, I just think it's all about people and how much time you put towards it, how much you study, how much you try to improve on each race. That definitely it doesn't cut any corners. It just makes you get to point A to point B a lot quicker.
So before you became a NASCAR Truck Series winner, one last question that I did have about the ARCA series is obviously you were the 2020 champ. What were some of the difficulties that there was with the 2020 season as is, being that 2020 was such a shit show of a year? Were you still in school, and what was the racing, how difficult was it to have, a wide gap of time away from the racetrack and then just get right back into it?
Honestly, it helped us a ton. And I know it's crazy to say, but as small of a team as we were, or how many people we had, like we had 3 months off, basically 2.5 months off, and it gave us time to update 2 of our cars. So we updated a short track car, intermediate, an intermediate car, and I think we realized after we did that, like our short track, how bad our previous short track car was, or short track chassis was, because immediately when we did that, we started finishing top 3 every race. So that was a huge thing, and it really helped us. Like I said, just gave us more time to prepare, more time to massage, I guess you could say, on the cars. So that alone, I think, turned our whole season around. If we had to keep going through that season, if we didn't have that break, or coronavirus didn't happen, I'm not saying thank God for coronavirus, but I'm saying, if it didn't happen, I don't think we win the championship that year, because we don't have that time.
So you you talk about surrounding yourself with the right people. Friend of ours, Derek Nealand. I grew up with him, childhood friends. He worked with you a little bit.
Yeah.
I texted him to lean on him, and he wants to know why he spots for Daniel Dye now. He wants to know why you ditched him in 1 and 2 at Talladega this year in the spring, and why he's the worst spotter you've ever had.
Wait. Why I ditched? Why I ditched Daniel?
Yeah, he said I said we're interviewing Bret Holmes tonight for the show. Anything I should ask? And he said ask him why he ditched us. Parentheses 43 in 1 and 2 at Talladega.
Oh my god, that man! What the fuck is he talking about? They wrecked themselves in 1 and 2. I pushed him all the way to the front. At that what ended up being the last lap, and I guess Derek was telling him turn left, turn right, turn left, turn right, because that's what he was doing. I don't know what he was doing, and then cleared himself to the bottom and wrecked himself and ended the race. I'm sure he's just messing with me, but no, I miss Derek a lot. Derek is a great spotter, and I hated we didn't get to work together this year. Because he every super speed race that I did with him, he drove a car for me. I mean, that's literally he is the best super speedway spotter there is. And what was his question about this past race? What did he say?
Or he followed it up by just saying, "Who's the best spotter you've ever had?" But I changed it as to why he was the worst spotter you've ever had.
No, I wouldn't. He's definitely the best I've had for sure.
Well, that'll go straight to his ego, I'm sure.
Correct. His,
No,
his head's getting bigger as we speak, and he hasn't even
Yeah,
noticed
no,
yet.
he knows that. He already knows. So, but I think we called it. We called him a traitor or a cheater, something like that, for not going with us this year. So, but I'm, he taking a full time deal is definitely a lot nicer. So, but yeah, no, Derek is, like I said, I haven't had him this year. I didn't have him this year, but he like I don't his vision, and I've been up in the spotter tower report, and once you do that, you gain such a bigger respect for those guys. And when you think about and hear what they're saying to you at a big racetrack like that, when you're looking at binoculars half the track, through binoculars half the track, like him, seeing the run, seeing where the seeing where the momentum's going, which lane is favored. And I mean, really since 2020, I think he spotted, I don't know if he spotted for me in 2019, but 2020 he definitely did. And I mean, since then, and since what I've learned from him then, I mean, like, we've been in the top 3 or top 5 every Talladega race, at least, on the white flag lap. So if that tells you anything of his spotting.
So you're we're gonna get into the trucks now. You're from Alabama. Obviously your home track is Talladega. We all saw it on the TV. We all were hooting and hollering for the guy that we had never heard of. But to run us through that gamut of emotions, I'm sure that you had in that moment there at Talladega in the truck.
Well, speaking of a guy that you never heard of, Door Bumper Clear said the same thing on their podcast, and they were like,
Freddie's been on the show.
I think that's John Holmes' son, old John Holmes, and I was like, well, I didn't really get those genes, unfortunately, but no, I kind of thought of that as disrespectful when he first said that, and then I was like, oh, whatever, like, it's not a big deal, because in the end it's just the ego thing, but. No, I mean,
three dipshits that run our mouths without knowing anything. Door Bumper Clear is 10 times worse than we are.
Oh yeah.
No.
They're the same as us. They just have a national platform. That's it.
Yeah, no, I would
Freddie's been on the show for whatever it's worth, so we get it.
I got you. I know I wouldn't say that towards you guys saying that. It was just like,
you could.
Do what?
You could.
I mean, yeah, but just like putting it out there like that, like some kid I never even heard of. Like when previous guests they've had, I've killed by 60 points. So running full time again. So throw some shade. So, but so what was your question about that race?
Well, I guess since we're throwing shade here, that the whole reason that this conversation is even happening is because you threw a picture up on Twitter that there's a banner in the background of the 2022 race winner at Talladega. Now, for those that don't know, that's obviously not how that officially panned out. Unofficially, it probably should have, but I was probably Bobby. Somebody said I admire that this amount of pettiness, and then you actually responded saying that you're like the king of pettiness or something like that.
Yeah, I said King Petty number 2 because you can't say
is.
King Petty in the racing world, and that just be left in the air like that. But
so obviously you're at your home track, right? Talladega to the kid from Alabama has to be Disneyland, basically, right? So what's it like not only to be in contention in probably your biggest race to date in Talladega in a truck, going for the win, but then to have the yellow came out and then everything that happened there, what was that roller coaster like for you?
It was crazy, man. Like the year before was my first truck race there, and we led more laps then than we did this year, really. But so we were kind of in contention to win last year a little bit too, not as good as this year, but so you know, once you've done it once, you feel like that's your standard, right? So that's, you know, I felt like I had lost the race at some, I think like with 20 something to go or 30 to go. I tried to pass the 42 in the tri-oval with no help, which was just a dumb decision by me. I ended up getting hung out to dry and falling back to 10th. I was like, well, I just lost the race just then. So and then we had a you know, caution or two later, and we gained a spot or two every time, and got to that position. And I mean, it was just pretty crazy. You know, I just we've never qualified well at any of those races. I feel like we never had that single truck speed to do that. But you know, so to really take a, you know, 25th place qualifying truck to be in contention every time is really cool. But it's like I said, it's just all about decision making and you know, which line you choose and being patient. You know, there's guys that are like trying to bump each other in the 5th and 6th row, and that didn't, you know, like you learn that on iRacing. Like that's just not even, you know, that's not even a any gain in that. But you know, as far as emotions go through the race, I kind of, you know, block out a lot of that stuff as far as having, you know, I had a ton of, you know, family and friends there, you know, probably like 50 or 60 in the infield and about the same in the grandstands. And then, you know, the amount of people are supporting us here around this area watching on TV. So, you know, it's just really, and I didn't, you know, show my ass as much as I could have, or maybe a little bit of wanted to at the end, you know, post race to as far as how that panned out. But because you just really think back at that you're even getting to do this in the first place, and how many, you know, people from like Talladega short track that we grew up racing with, you know, how many of them would have, you know, killed for that opportunity to even be out there, to whether they ran 30th or had a chance to win. So that, and you know, knowing that, or you know, hoping that it's, you know, not going to be my last chance to do that. So you know, it was pretty, you know, like I said, it was pretty crazy. I think I said at the end that I just didn't know whether to you know, laugh or cry about it. You know, so sometimes I still don't know how I should feel about it. It's just it's such a weird scenario, weird way it panned out, that you know, you don't really know what to do, but at the same time you want to, you know, be positive and always look at the bright side of things too. So but the banner, the whole banner deal, my crew chief Shane, his wife Wendy owns a graphics company, and she does, you know, graphics for race cars, just banners, t-shirts, all that stuff. So you know, my crew chief and my dad and crew were, I think, more mad about the race ending than I was, and so it was more so on them that they got that made. And I thought it would be funny to put it in the background of a picture. Not I didn't know like it would get near as much of a reaction as it did, but I was like kind of low-key hoping that it would get noticed a little bit, you know, because I didn't really advertise it. Didn't want to. I don't want to be like, I want to be like that guy that, oh, we won the race. Really, no, we didn't. Like, you know, so that's why it, you know, said unofficial, all that stuff on it. So, and why I didn't advertise it a lot, but it was you know, funny nonetheless more than anything. So
something like that's definitely going to pop off if anyone's able to see it. So were you the one that took the picture? Because it was tweeted from the NASCAR on Reddit. Like they had like the picture, but the NASCAR on Reddit Twitter account, and that's what I quote tweeted. But were you the one that took the picture of the truck and posted it on the social media? Because someone was, you know, someone zoomed in and obviously saw that banner.
Yeah. I took the picture of the truck. It was right before we were getting ready to load it, and so just, you know, or right after we had put graphics on it or something. And honestly, that's just the way a shop is kind of laid out. Like when you come off the plate or the pull down rig and it rolls backwards, it's already kind of sitting there like that where we put the old banner. So that's just how it, I mean, that's how it panned out. But like, obviously I didn't have to include it on there, you know what I mean? So that, you know, it's just
it was calculated.
What's that?
Said it was calculated.
A little Yeah.
I remember watching that. I think that we were actually at Thompson Speedway up here in Connecticut, and I was watching on my phone, and I remember like because I kind of wish that anyone other than Matt DiBenedetto won that race because I was thinking about this before we came on. Like, not to like trash on him. I'm just saying that like I feel like
Like a
you
little
would have
bit.
gotten more publicity. You would have been up there in like the all time. Well, not like that's like a good thing, but like all time greatest like hoses of all time in like NASCAR, like Reagan Smith. Like just you should have won that race, obviously. And I feel like it was a lot of it was swept under the rug because a lot of people like Matt DiBenedetto. I don't think that any of us three are necessarily in that camp. That being said, like I remember I was sitting there and I think I couldn't hear because race cars were going around the racetrack, obviously loud noises. And I remember like fist bumping. I was like, Bret Holmes just won the race, and everyone was kind of like, who? And I like because I wanted on record that I actually knew who you were, and you're in almost all of my DraftKings lineups because I know if you qualify shitty, you're gonna race your way towards the front because you're a hell of a race car driver, and I've watched since the ARCA days. But
Well, not so
thank you. I
much in
appreciate that.
qualifying.
We do qualify like shit though.
that's perfect. DraftKings has you know, like cheaper because you qualified bad, and then I know you're gonna make your way to the front. I'm like, this is perfect. This kid's a good race car driver.
That's the most
Yeah.
backhanded compliment I've ever heard in my life.
I mean, hey, you
cheap. That's why we pick you up.
And you're gonna have a good
Basically.
no,
So
it could have been worse. I could have been like what Charlie said when he just straight up said no one had heard of you.
yeah, it could have been worse.
I
But
told you we're not real shy around here.
no, it's okay. I love the honesty.
We do have a Patreon account. And we were talking about this a little earlier. And on our Patreon account, we have the listeners submit questions to you. But I think one of the ones that Bobby had specifically was it the pit?
Oh no, actually, so that's something that I was just about to bring up before the Patreon questions. I wasn't prepared, but so obviously Talladega being your home track, have you ever gandered out back to Talladega Boulevard, and have you ever dabbled in any alcohol or maybe get some beads or something? I don't know what happens back.
Oh yeah, dude. No, we stay like so every weekend we stay like a row off the boulevard. It's called the Orange Lot, I think. It's like one road off of it, and that's where we camp out at. At least every fall we do that. We did stay last spring, but we were in a different area. But the Golden Eagle syrup, my sponsor, they for those races, they have like a huge setup there, and so we just they give me a couple spots to one for me to use and one for my buddies to come bring. They normally rent an RV to come, and yeah, we spend the whole weekend there, and it's pretty fun for sure. I mean, I like the boulevard to like walk up and down it, but I mean, let's be honest. Like, I mean, I don't want to want this to say this the wrong way or anything, but like, you don't just take drinks from everybody you don't know, you know what I mean? Or and there are some pretty disturbing race things on the boulevard, like the bunny races and stuff. There is a limit, a line I draw, you know what I mean? I mean, the voluntary stripper pole is not a terrible thing, but when you get into the bunny races side of the boulevard, that's where it's like, okay, this is kind of fucked up. So but I don't know how they get by with a lot of this stuff, but I guess if it's voluntary, then they don't really care. So
yeah, I feel like we I don't know how to word this either. We party hard, let's just say that. And I think that my saving grace in life was that when I went to Talladega I was 8. So if I had gone since I knew what alcohol was, I don't know that I would have ever came back. So
yeah,
we do like our own little New Hampshire Motor Speedway deal, and there's a voluntary stripper pole, and we have a big old party, but it's nothing like the Boulevard, at least what I've seen. And it was like 7:00, and I was trying to recruit the girls, obviously, up on the pole. And Freddie Kraft told me to get the fuck off the pole. So obviously I listened, and yeah, so I don't know if that's happening at 7:00 in Loudon, New Hampshire. I can only imagine what's happening at 1:00 in the morning at Talladega Boulevard.
no, it's fun. I mean, they've reeled it back a little bit. I mean, normally it used to be like every year somebody would go missing or pass away. So we've at least, got a little bit better. But it's always a great time. I mean, and they say the same thing about Michigan. And so I mean, Michigan, I don't know how, but like they say it's kind of pretty comparable to that too. So I'd like to try that out or see what everybody's talking about or see what they're saying. But yeah, I mean, race
I've heard
fans, man, they don't care sometimes.
I've heard big things about the snake pit at Indy too.
Yeah, I've heard
Yeah.
that too. Like people, there's only a handful of ones that people say they compare to Talladega. So definitely would like to see what they're talking about one day for sure.
What's the weirdest thing you've ever signed?
I mean, like a little kid will like, this has probably happened like 2 or 3 times ever, but like a little kid would walk up and be like, sign my forearm or something. You're like, that's kind of weird. I haven't really signed anything like a golf ball. I feel like a golf ball is I've done that one time, and I feel like it's probably not normal in the golf world, but like it's so small, like you can't even like make that work. I don't know. I haven't. I signed a vape. I signed a vape at Talladega. That was pretty funny. They're like one of those little box
A
vapes.
vape or a baby?
A vape, not a
Oh.
baby. No, a vape. I signed a vape, but somebody was just doing that. I think just being funny. But that's probably top 3 things that's weirdest. I mean, it doesn't happen a lot. You know what I mean? Like it's, I mean, we're ARCA and truck drivers. It's not like we're, crazy. Not like we're up there or anything. But that's been it so far.
So getting on to, we have a couple Patreon questions. Most of these are for us, and they're things that I would never ask another human in my life. But we've also kind of already touched on this one. But Tyler Bauer wanted to know, how surreal is it to run a race at your home track? And I mean, I guess just what have we not touched on from racing at Dega? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean that's I guess it's something I didn't really touch on, but like that's what made it so sad at the end, right? Is because like, that is a dream for anybody who's came up in racing to win at like a home track like that. There's not a lot of when a track your dad grew up racing at and track you grew up racing at is across the road from the super speedway, you always refer to it as the big track or whatever. And just being around this area so close, and just this community around here, how supportive they are and how much they keep up with it. Like that's, if I have a bad, a lot of the times if I have a bad race one weekend, I get to hear about it the entire week, because everybody I see through the week is like, man, I hate, and you have to say the same old story. It sucks, but it's the other way around if you race good. So, but it's great that they're like, keeping up with it and even asking in the first place. But just like it, again, it's just a dream to be able to do something like that, and just the environment around that with the people here is it would just be unreal. And I really understood it a little bit more in the truck race last year when we wrecked, and we were like 4th on the last lap and got hit from behind and wrecked at the end, like coming off a 4 area there. And like my truck was like pretty much undrivable, but I was like, well, it'll still run, it'll still putt, across. It probably won't get higher than 45 miles an hour, but I like basically putted it across the start finish line, because I was like, I can see the start finish line. I'm not going to park it, and like it, even though I probably shouldn't be driving it through here or driving it to it, I can see the start finish line. I always have that like memory of Carl Edwards in my head when he like ran across start finish line, because he could see it, and make it across there. That didn't count, but so I made it across the line, and when I got in my truck, like I heard a lot of the fans in the stands cheer, and that's kind of what it hit me, that I actually do have a lot of support from people from Alabama, and not just people I know, or people around this area. So that was just for really both of those reasons. And or all those reasons, it would just be unreal, man. I can't explain it. I mean, and just know it was that close, like it was, and what it should have came down to. I mean, when you have the truck series director, apologizing to you and your crew chief that it should have went another way for the week or 2 weeks after the race. I mean, I don't know if that makes it any better or worse to admit they, knew that they made a mistake and should have let the race pan out. And you didn't get to enjoy that, but like I said, it's a double-edged sword, man. You the fact that you even get to do it, it's just crazy. So, yeah.
So where are you actually located, and how far from Talladega are you?
I'm still at the office right now. Our construction office is right across the road from my dad's house. So I've actually got to go to North Carolina tomorrow, but I'm in Munford right now is where our construction shop is. Yeah.
And how far away is that from Talladega?
It's about 5, Munford or North Carolina.
Just Talladega in general.
No, Munford. I mean, Munford and Talladega are like 10 minutes, 15 minutes apart from each other. So, yeah.
So, like,
that's very much your place then.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But still trying to, put together my plans for next year, as far as like what I'm doing, and trying to run full time, but it's just a lot of moving pieces to figure out and put together. So I go to North Carolina a couple days a week and trying to figure that out. I'm kind of getting behind on work here, so it's kind of this. Although the season's over right now, the last 2 or 3 weeks, I've just been like honestly stretched thin and dead feeling because I've been driving back and forth from up here, there, and here so much. So that's just part of putting it all together.
So you touched on next year already, but what is the 5, 10, 20-year plan for Bret Holmes? Like, is the goal to race on Sundays, or are we just trying to get a truck team together still?
Well, I mean, yeah, I think that's ultimately the goal one day, and it's hard to put a exact year or timeline on it. I would love to say, hey, I'm trying to put things together and find a crew chief, trying to get manufacturing support, find a sponsor to be able to run competitively next year, top 5, top 10 every week. That's the most ideal situation, and run for a championship. But I mean, there's been so many guys and so much talent come through the truck series, and it takes them 2 or 3 years to get to the point where they're in the top 4 or top 8 in points or in the playoffs. Like the truck series field is just so stacked. I feel like out of every level outside of Cup right now, which there's even more moving pieces this year. But so to win in that series and B, to win a championship in that series is like, I feel like a huge, just a huge accomplishment for the people that know, and like, that there's 20 trucks that can win this race, 20, 25, quality pieces of equipment and quality drivers that can win the race. So, I mean, yeah, right now it's just trying to put that together to run full time. I would hope that we could win a truck championship with, next year or 2 years or something like that. I know it takes time, and it's going to take more time than it did in ARCA because of that competition difference. But, I wouldn't say, unless I just, completely fall in love with it at that point, that I'm going to be a lifer in that series or what. Like I, always want to advance or improve. And I would definitely love to do like a one-off Xfinity race one day to see, what it's like. But, if I, one day end up winning a championship in trucks, like that's going to be the next step, is try to build, try to do one in Xfinity. So, but it's 10 times easier said than done, and putting it all together and with your own team is a lot more difficult than, than just doing it with a team that's been established and been doing it for a while.
So we do have just one more Patreon question here from Matt C. If it wasn't for driving, what other avenue would you consider doing in the sport to make a living, if not outside the industry? What are you thinking?
In the
truck series competition director or something?
that would be a pretty nice gig, wouldn't it? Wouldn't have to do a whole lot. Yeah. I'm kidding. No,
Richard the
I don't know. What's that? Sorry.
King Richard II, you said.
No, I don't know. I've never really thought about that, to be honest. I guess I'd like to be a spotter or crew chief, to be honest with you. I mean, somebody that is like directly, you know, one of the main guys that's directly associated with, what's panning out in the race, what's happening in the race. I could see like, calling races, how that would be super fun, like deciding what changes to make, what pit strategy to make, do, and spotting. Like I've done that a handful of times, like in testing and in practice, and have gotten like a little bit more comfortable with that. But I definitely, couldn't do it. Definitely couldn't drop everything and be like, hey, I'm gonna be a full-time spotter right now. But I would say one of those two. Those are outside of driving. That's one of the most two fun things you can do during a race for sure.
So I guess one couple, or I guess the final question I have for you. It's the question I ask pretty much every guest that we have here, but you might have already answered it, or you might want to add on it. But what is it that brings Bret Holmes to the racetrack? Why do you have to be there?
Well, I mean, it's funny to ask like that, and like, why do you have to be there? I mean, we don't have to be there for sure. I mean, I don't. I mean, it's just a love for racing. Like, obviously, like we fund half to 3/4 of everything I do and everything our team does. So, and I'm, here working 11, 12-hour days trying to help do that too, and help get to a point where we can do that stuff. So, it's just a love for racing, man. Like it's so, and, people I feel like are just have to be absolutely crazy to do it, because it takes so much to be able to do it, so much to even get to the racetrack compared to other sports. So, I don't know. It's just, I don't want to say something cliche like it's in my blood because my dad did it, but in a way that's true, and, always wanting to improve on, everybody wants to improve on anything, any aspect of their life, and I think, most people career is what they try to focus on improving. So, although it's super hard, though we've sacrificed a lot, it hasn't really, there's been a couple moments where it's came to mind, like, why am I doing this? Like, this is crazy, like, but, I just, but when you have races like Talladega, when you have races, when you've got a competitive truck, like you're reminded of like why you're doing this, that feel of why you're doing it. And, I mean, and once you've raced once in your life, it's so hard to not want to go back to that feeling. Like a lot of people compare it, like as a metaphor to a drug, because there's like nothing that's going to give you that level of excitement or feeling once you've done that. So I think, for those reasons, that's why I'm still doing it. Because I definitely, I mean, if you want to make $1 million in racing, you should start with 2, because there's no way, you know what I mean? Like it's not like, I'm, living off of that or anything. So it's really just for the love for it.
I think that all three of us can respect that answer for sure. For a couple of kids who, we've all dabbled in driving ourselves, and we've all created this show here just because of a pure love of racing. So I appreciate that answer. Hopefully one of these days we'll see you at Loudon, or maybe we'll see you in Pensacola. We're going to be down there for the Derby early December there. If you want to come and hang out with us idiots, or just fuck off completely, either way, that's totally up to you. But no, I'd enjoy meeting you in person and have the conversation with you. And it looks like you got a good thing going on there for sure. And I appreciate you coming on here and giving us some of your time.
Yeah, definitely. I might come down. I got a couple of friends. I mean, Grant's racing it, obviously, and I've got a couple other friends that are going to be down there. So, yeah, I might be down there. But yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on and reaching out and everything. I really, it's more fun to get to do these more like casual interviews than it is like something serious, like over radio or whatever, article or whatever. So, I definitely appreciate you having me on.
There's absolutely nothing serious about what we do.
What about the truck race at Daytona? Are you gonna run that this upcoming season?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to. Like, I think out of everybody who ran Talladega, we came out the least, like with the least damage. So that should be an easy one for us, regardless if we go full time or part time. So um, I would say
It only takes money, right?
yeah, but I would say like regardless, if we're full time or part time, like we'll probably definitely be at Daytona.
The reason I ask is these two are going to Pensacola. I'm not. Derek was actually going to race this year, and I was going to go with him, but he bailed last minute, so I'm not going to Pensacola. But the three of us will be at Daytona. For some reason, they let us walk around the garage area. They must do a very thorough background check, so we'll try to meet you there. I know. I feel like I speak for the three of us. I knew who you were through Derek, but wasn't really aware of anything else other than that. I'm a fan, so be cool to meet you at Daytona and cheer you on.
Yeah, for sure, man. Thank you. And what's his why is he not coming down to run? What's the deal?
Because he's a pussy.
I don't know. He ventured out did some big stuff this year, but just things weren't going to work out financially for him, and they're going to.
Yeah, that's a big. I mean, you're looking at 4 hours of practice or whatever it is. It's a crazy crazy tire bill. Like like I was saying earlier, like late model racing general budgets, it's just not what they used to be. So I definitely feel that. So but Haiti's not running it. I don't get to see him too often anymore, but yeah, I'll definitely try to be down there for the Derby and Daytona.
When you start with the finances by having to include a 26-hour drive to the race, it's downhill from there.
I'm dreading this 5.5 hour drive I got to do tomorrow. I couldn't imagine.
I was gonna say I don't know if you've ever
Jesus.
seen a map ever, but Maine and Florida could not be farther away from each other.
Yeah, no, I can picture that. Yeah, I can picture that.
Covered.
Yeah. Well, all right, man. We'll let you get back to it. We know that you're a busy fella. You're doing construction stuff and race car trucks and Nash trucks and all sorts of stuff. So we'll leave you alone. But again, thank you for coming on here, giving us some of your time, and go kick some ass.
Thank you guys. I really appreciate it.